Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking an absolute bombshell that just dropped at Google I/O. Google just killed the Gemini CLI. Just gone. But hey, you know how it is in the tech world. When a massive player like Google axes as a beloved tool, they usually replace it with something totally revolutionary. And that brings us to the newly revamped Antigravity ecosystem. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, hasn't Antigravity been around since November 2025? And you'd be totally right. But what they just unveiled is a complete top-to-bottom reimagining of how we're going to build software from here on out.
So the immediate, obvious question here is, why on earth did Google just kill the Gemini CLI? I mean, it was popular, it worked, so why scrap it? Well, digging into the source material, a very specific strategy emerges. Basically, when Google kills a generalized tool, it's because they're making way for something hyper-specialized. In the past, coding tools were kind of just lumped under this massive Gemini umbrella alongside, well, everything else. But Google realized that for real, hardcore software development, devs need a distinct, dedicated ecosystem. They need tools purpose-built for their workflows, not just some bolted-on feature in a general AI chat window. And that hyper-specialized ecosystem is exactly what they just launched.
Okay, let's look at Section 1, the Antigravity ecosystem. Google has basically carved up this new landscape into 3 completely distinct paths to fit different types of creators. We've got Antigravity 2.0, the Antigravity IDE, and the Antigravity CLI. And they deliberately rebranded these to create a super clear Antigravity for developers ecosystem. The absolutely crucial thing to understand here is that these aren't just the same software in different wrappers. No way. They are 3 entirely separate setups, requiring separate downloads, engineered from the absolute ground up for entirely different styles of creating software.
Which leads us to Section 2, choosing your development tool.
Now, as we break down the target users for each of these, I want you to kind of mentally reflect on your own daily workflow. Ask yourself which one fits your personal coding vibe, because picking the right environment here, it literally changes everything. So breaking it down systematically, at the top we have Antigravity 2.0. This is a standalone desktop app with an agentic UI. If you're a project leader, or maybe you come from a non-technical, no-code background and you just want to engage in vibe coding, which basically means you just describe what you want without writing the syntax yourself, this is absolutely your go-to. It's built for rapid, no-code prototyping. Next down is the Antigravity IDE. This is for the visual developers. It's essentially a fork of familiar open-source code editors, so you get that classic, comfortable dev feel. You choose this when you want total code visibility, file control, and you really just want to stay in the driver's seat. And finally, the Antigravity CLI. This is the direct replacement for the old Gemini CLI. It is strictly for terminal purists. The devs who were coding long before AI was even a thing. You write your manual commands right in the terminal to execute powerful low-level operations. Just keep in mind, getting access to the CLI's raw power does require a Pro or Ultra plan. To make this even clearer, the source material uses this brilliantly simple analogy. Think of the Antigravity 2.0 app and the IDE as driving an automatic car. The AI is handling a lot of this shifting gears in the background for you. But the CLI? The CLI is a manual transmission. It is built for the true developers who don't want the machine making assumptions on their behalf. If you want total, absolute control on the manual execution of every single component, you grab the stick shift. You use the Antigravity CLI. All right, moving on to Section 3, the need for speed. Now that we know the vehicles, let's pop the hood and look at the engine powering them all, the Gemini 3.5 Flash model. When you look at model output speed, you might naturally wonder, hey, why use 3.5 Flash when we have these incredibly intelligent, massive models like Gemini 3.1 Pro or Claude Opus 4.7? And fair question. While 3.1 Pro or Opus 4.7 might edge out Flash slightly in raw, absolute intelligence, 3.5 Flash just completely blows them out of the water in output speed. It gives you almost the exact same level of performance, but it is blindingly fast. In a dev environment where you're constantly querying, generating code, iterating, waiting on a slightly smarter but slower model totally breaks your flow state. Flash gives you the sheer speed you need to build fluidly. And the real magic is how this speed is utilized. That brings us to MCP, or the Model Context Protocol. Basically, MCP is a framework that allows AI models to execute multi-step workflows and real-world tool use cases really, really rapidly. Flash absolutely crushes at MCP. Because, think about it, in an agentic workflow, a model isn't just answering a one-off trivia question. It's performing a massive sequence of actions. It's reading files, writing code, testing that code, and reporting back. For those multi-step real-world workflows, raw speed paired with the MCP framework is just infinitely more valuable than a tiny bump in theoretical IQ. Let's see this in action. Section 4, Browser Automation Subagents. Thanks to this incredible speed and that MCP framework we just talked about, the ecosystem can seamlessly deploy what are called subagents. Let's look at a super practical example from the source, building an app called Quizmaster. The absolute magic here is in the exact steps. So, the host asks the system to build the app. The main AI agent starts writing the code, right? But then it autonomously invokes a completely separate browser subagent. This subagent literally opens up a web browser, navigates to the running Quizmaster app, and starts interacting with it exactly like a human QA tester would. It types in a nickname, the host used Naveen, and it starts clicking through the quiz. It checks if the UI turns green for right answers, red for wrong ones, it skips questions, and finally, it analyzes its own testing accuracy, in this case scoring at 80%, and reports all those findings right back to the main agent. Your AI is physically clicking through the web app to verify the code it literally just wrote. How wild is that?
Actually, I just have to read this direct quote from the subagent interacting with the main agent because it gave me chills. I have invoked the browser subagent. I will report as browser. Just think about the level of autonomy happening right there. You are not just chatting with a bot anymore. You have a main agent dispatching a specialized testing agent out into a live browser environment, conducting QA, and actively reporting back. It is literally like having a senior developer and a dedicated QA tester sitting inside your machine, working together simultaneously.
Which brings us to the climax here. Section 5, Parallel Testing in Docs. Let's speed things up.
Okay, strap in because things are about to get frantic. Here is the absolute raw, unadulterated power of the anti-gravity ecosystem when you push it to its absolute limits by running all three tools at the exact same time. The host in the source material did something kind of crazy. They ran them concurrently on a single project. So get this, while the browser subagent is off verifying the Quizmaster UI accuracy and clicking buttons, the Antigravity IDE is simultaneously analyzing the workspace and autonomously generating comprehensive unit test cases in the background. And, as if that wasn't enough, the host pulls up the manual transmission, the Antigravity CLI, and commands it to initialize the project architecture and write out a detailed spec file, essentially directing the other agents. We are talking about three massive, highly intelligent workflows executing entirely in parallel. Now, of course, running three massive AI models concurrently on your machine does come with a slight catch. As the host brilliantly pointed out during this parallel testing frenzy, I'm going to lose all my tokens today. By pushing the browser subagent, the IDE, and the CLI all at the exact same time, they hit 80% of their daily token quota in a matter of minutes. So yeah, it's a funny but very real reminder of the absolute massive computational horsepower you're casually wielding when you fire up these parallel agentic workflows. But honestly, the results of those spent tokens are just undeniable. Let's slow down for a second, just to marvel at what the CLI produced while all that other testing was happening. Without the developer lifting a single finger to type out a document, the CLI automatically generated this incredible ag.md documentation file that perfectly detailed the project specs. It outlined the specific React and Vite versions being used, it documented the app's exact color schemes, it mapped out the key architecture, including exactly where the timer and leaderboard were located. It even documented the exact JSON schema required for the quiz questions. I mean, it's a flawlessly documented codebase, generated concurrently while the app was actively being built and QA tested. Which brings us to our final slide, and a question I really want you to deeply ponder as we wrap up this explainer. If AI agents within this new anti-gravity ecosystem can build your code in the IDE, visually test it in the browser with subagents, and flawlessly documenting the architecture via the CLI, all at the exact same time, what exactly is the role of the developer tomorrow? Are we still just writers of syntax, or have we fully transitioned into being orchestrators of agents? The manual transmission is still there if you really want it, but man, the automatic car is driving incredibly fast. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into anti-gravity, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.